Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new series. If you ever wanted to jump into space engineers but felt overwhelmed by all the changes and new mechanics like the optional food system, farming, environmental hazards, and random encounters, you're in the right place. This guide is meant to teach you how to play this incredible game in the most straightforward way possible. In this first episode, we're going to cover everything you need to know before you even hit play. From the best settings for a new player to the starting options that'll give you the easiest start. Before we drop down on the planet, let's go over a few key settings that can make your first run a lot less intimidating. First up, in the new food consumption rate setting, you have 4 options. Disabled, which turns the entire food system off, slow, which gives you about 3 hours, moderate, which is the default setting and gives you an hour and a half, and fast, which drains your food in just 45 minutes. While weather isn't new to the game, the damage and effects are. Be aware that while most of the weather on the Earth-like planet is harmless, certain conditions like hailstorms can now cause you damage if you're outside of your ship or grid. Also be aware that thunderstorms can be dangerous if you have lightning turned on in your world settings. Solar radiation has a drop-down option, but it is disabled by default. This is more of a hardcore setting that makes the sun itself a source of radiation, and you can change its intensity to light, medium, or heavy. The reduced stats on respawn option is another one that's enabled by default, but it is really a hardcore setting. When you die and respawn outside of a medical room or respawn ship, this will cause all of your stats, health, food, energy, and oxygen to drop to 20%. It's definitely a consequence for dying. And finally, a very important setting you should be aware of is progression. It's on by default, and it acts as a technology tree, requiring you to build certain blocks before you can unlock new ones. This can complicate a scavenger style of playthrough that we'll discuss later. Now that we have our settings dialed in, it's time to choose where we want to start our journey. There are a ton of options here, from the hostile alien planet to the deep space empty world. For the purpose of this guide, we're going to choose the Earth-like planet. It's still the best place for a new player to start. The big advantage here is the breathable atmosphere, which means you don't have to worry about running out of oxygen. On the Earth-like planet, meteors won't fall to the surface, and radiation isn't a threat either, which is an important consideration for a space start. Speaking of which, if you really want a challenge, you can choose the space start. This is the core of the game and can be an incredibly hard start with food enabled, especially if you also turn on solar radiation. Once you have Earth-like selected, just hit respawn. And just like that, you're on the surface of the Earth-like planet. This is your new home for the next little while. The new Respawn rover is a very basic but perfectly capable starting vehicle. It's perfectly set up for customization, but for now, it's a great tool for getting around. To get out of the cockpit, press F. This is the main interaction key. First, let's talk about the essentials you start with. In your action bar, you'll see your 3 most important tools: a welder, a grinder, and a hand drill. You'll be using these for everything. The welder builds, the grinder disassembles, and the drill mines. As a quick tip, double-clicking with any of these tools will toggle them on, so you don't have to hold the mouse button down. Now, let's go over how to interact with the rover's systems. You can hit the I key to bring up your inventory, or the K to open your control panel, which also has an inventory tab you can access from there. Now let's go over what this thing is packing. The first thing you want to do is grab the data pad from your inventory. This pad gives you a GPS of a nearby trade station. You must open your control panel by hitting K, then find the GPS tab and double-click the GPS marker to make sure it's added. If you don't do this, the marker can eventually disappear. The rover also comes with some essentials. You'll find a handgun and 4 magazines for it, as well as 4 kelp crisps. These are your only source of food for the moment, so use them wisely. The rover also comes with a survival kit. This is an incredibly important tool. It can do many things, but its most basic function is to act as a respawn point. It recharges your suit's power level, and it can also refill your suit's oxygen and hydrogen, but only if the survival kit is connected to a tank or an O2H2 generator. But don't worry, the rover does have oxygen and hydrogen tanks of its own right here, as well as a battery mounted on the bottom to keep everything powered. Now that you know what your rover has, let's talk about your first production block, the survival kit. It's not just your respawn point. It's also your very first way to produce the ingots you'll need to make components and basic food. Let's start by getting some stone. Grab your hand drill and let's go over how to use it. If you left click, you will mine the ground and produce stone, which will be dropped for you to pick up. If you right click, you can clear out a larger area, but it won't produce any stone. To quickly transfer your inventory, you can face the survival kit's conveyor port and press Alt middle mouse. This will dump your entire inventory into the container, saving you from having to open the menu every time. As a quick tip, You can also hold down the F key while you're drilling to automatically pick up the ore. If you prefer to do it manually, you can face the port and hit I or K to access the inventory. Once inside, here are a few shortcuts you need to know. Double-clicking a stack of stone will move the whole stack. If you want to move smaller amounts, Control-click will move 10. Shift-click will move 100, and Control-Shift-click will move 1,000. For a more precise amount, you can right-click and drag to bring up an input menu for an exact amount. Now, with your stone loaded, here's how you process it. Unlike other machines, the survival kit doesn't process automatically. To get it to work, face it and hit K to open the production tab. Then, Control-Shift-click the ingot symbol once to queue up processing 1,000 stone into materials. You'll have to keep resupplying it with stone as you go. From this point, you have two main options for how to start your journey in Space Engineers. Your first option is to be a nomad. Use your rover to scout around and find a prime location to build a base. The rover has an ore detector on the top behind the cockpit, which will help you find a spot with plenty of resources. Your second option is to be a scavenger. You can scout around for a planetary encounter or a crashed ship. They can be a great way to get a head start on resources and materials without having to build everything from scratch. So, this choice is yours. Are you going to be a nomad and build your own base from the ground up, or a scavenger and claim an encounter as your own? And that's it for the first episode. You now know how to set up your world, what tools you start with, and what to do with your first step into Space Engineers. For more helpful information, you can also check out the official Space Engineers wiki. I'll make sure to drop a link to it in the description below. In the next video, we'll look at both paths and dive into the exciting world of surviving on the planet. If you have suggestions for videos or this series, consider joining the Discord. Links are down in the description. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video.